Now I'm going to dig pretty deep into this part because this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, really. Up until now, it's all been mental. Now we need to go do stuff with the account. So we've got our forecast and we know it matters. The context said, yes, continue. If you don't act at this point, I mean, you are choosing not to act, right? But maybe you look at that context and you go, nah. So then you loop back again to the beginning. You ask new questions, better questions. You look at different data. You make a different forecast. Oh, no, that was a waste of time too. Okay, loop back around or make a different forecast or go look at different data. Loop back around until you have a forecast that matters. Now we need to move forward through the framework and act. Some of these actions can be done by the machine. Others need to be done by us because they're going to require us to look at a bigger picture. Machine learning at this point, at the time of recording, it's late 2019. We are not close yet to artificial general intelligence. We need about another dozen breakthroughs in AI to get us there. Right now, what machines are very, very good at is in a very, very, very narrow range, which means they're very good at making predictions in this tiny little space, but they're not good yet at looking at lots of different domains and making decisions that take all of that into account and that mix in our value judgments. So we need humans in the picture. So this is how I am starting to think about it. On the left, we've got all blue, so all machine. And on the right, we've got all purple, that's all human. And in the middle, we've got a mix of both. You've heard me say before that the future is smart machines playing with smart people. I'm starting to think that this pretty much maps to a timeline here. That on the left, we've got hourly or even real-time decisions being made. And over on the right-hand side, we've got a much longer time horizon, let's say quarterly. Now, this also maps to kind of the level of marketing role inside of an organization. With no offense to interns around the world, over on the left-hand side, you've kind of got intern level decision making. And then over on the right, you've got CMO or marketing director level. And in between, you've kind of got marketing coordinator, marketing director. So you've sort of got these levels. I've heard it said that having AI is like having a million interns. I wouldn't want to be an intern heading into the 2020s trying to be an intern. You've got to find a way to add value and not just do stuff that can be turned into code or that machines can do. And so in the middle here, we've got daily, weekly, monthly. And so we've got different actions depending on different timeframes. And we're going to play with the machine a little bit more or a little less. We might use different data, but yeah, I'm playing with this at the moment. It's not fully formed. So real time and hourly. We're just pretty much going to let the machine do its thing at this point because there's so much data that we can't possibly get involved. If you've read Fred Vallet's new AI book, he goes into sort of some of the numbers around permutations and combinations. Charlie Munger always used to talk about permutations and combinations. It's basic maths, but you very quickly realize that this is a huge number. A human can't deal with it. If I've got one keyword and I need to decide what the bid of that keyword is across 3 devices, across 1,000 locations, with or without remarketing involved, on different days of the week. And that's before I start taking into account all of the crazy stuff that Google takes into account, like what apps do people have downloaded on their phone and how have they converted on other websites, and those 70 million data points that we know that Google makes in 0.1 of a second every time someone does a search on Google. So we can be using the power of the machine to alert us to new stuff. I'll talk about alerts a bit more. We might use scripts. If we want to do things hourly, then we're going to need to use Google Scripts. Bid changes. I am not saying, please hear me, I am not saying that Google's models are the best and that they will beat a human every time. That is not what I'm saying. But you should at least be practicing that and testing that against your existing manual models, because we will reach a point where the machine is impossible to beat. We are definitely not there yet in 2019, but we will reach that point, and it will be a strategic and competitive advantage to you if you know how to use those tools, if you know how to cajole and nudge and bribe the machine to do what it is that you need it to do. Things like 404s, I still see them. It's 2019. You used to see this a lot 10 years ago, and I still see them. You click on an ad and it goes to a 404 page. It's insane, but hey, I've done it. I've done it in my business. We changed our website and we didn't change URLs. It's very, very simple to have a script, a piece of code, something checking for that and letting us know. Then we move to daily. Right, so now we can use auto rules. They're not nearly as powerful as scripts, but it's a great place to start when you're getting with your head around this. You don't have to rush out and try and hire someone that knows Google Ads scripts. Start with some auto rules. Start with a whiteboard and just writing out what all the rules are that you would like. What do I mean by that? By writing down all of the alerts that you would like to be told about. If this, then that. All right, you can write 50 or 100 of those, but start with 5. What are those things that you want to know about? As we use the machine more and more, we want to make sure that it stays in bounds. The analogy that I'm playing with this, and I've only told this to a couple of people at this point, I'm still playing with this, but it kind of works. I started with football fields and a whole bunch of other stuff, but here's where I'm at the moment, right? The AI is like a toddler, and toddlers will do incredible things, but they need to be supervised. So you kind of put a fence around the toddler, and the toddler does its thing. And every now and again, the toddler will go out of bounds. It'll climb the fence. It'll wander where it's not supposed to wander. And that's when Dad steps in. Dad has rules. If this, then that. Blokes are really good at this stuff, right? So Dad keeps the toddler in bounds. But every now and again, the toddler's going to go way crazy and do stuff that Dad can't cope with. Dad's never seen this before, so Dad doesn't have a rule for this behavior that he's never seen before. That's when you need Mum. And Mum sits around the outside of all of that because Mum uses intuition and can make up a new rule on the spot, but it's not a rule. It's just a feeling. It's intuition. And Mum gets the toddler, gets it back to where it needs to be, reset, everything's good, and the cycle repeats. That's kind of what machine learning is like. So we've got machine learning in the middle, doing its thing, going crazy. We've got some rules around the outside of that to keep the machine doing what it should do, which it does most of the time. And every now and again, the humans will need to step in and maybe change a few rules. That's Mum correcting Dad, I guess. Hadn't thought of that before. But change a few rules to make it harder for the toddler to escape. And maybe train the AI. Maybe train the toddler that, hey, that's actually a bad thing to do. You don't want to be doing that. We will need you to stay over here from now on. I don't know if that works, but hopefully that gave you a giggle. Other stuff we might do daily, excluding placements from GDN campaigns as an example, or looking at new search queries. What are the new words? Again, Ngram stuff. What are the new words in those search queries that we've never seen before? Stepping up to weekly. Now we're starting to look at early trends. Now, 7 days really isn't a trend most of the time unless you've got huge volume of data. And even then, yeah, not really, because obviously Mondays behave very, very differently from Saturdays. But you might start to see some early trends if you're testing one bid model against another. That's the sort of stuff that you're probably looking at, maybe even daily, but probably weekly. Starting to think about ad copy and how can you change the different messages that different people are seeing. Thinking about tests and experiments that you want to run. Up to monthly, where you're starting to look bigger picture now. What are we actually measuring? Are we measuring the right conversions? How are we valuing those conversions maybe? What are we learning from this? New experiments that I want to start running. The structure of my campaign. Should I be splitting that campaign into a more granular setup, or even should I be taking these few campaigns and consolidating them? What are the pros and cons of that? Again, value, right? So we can make a prediction, but now we need to use our value judgment because we need to weigh up the pros and cons between having all of my data in one place and having sparse data, or having everybody see this message, or having these people see a more tailored message. So structure's a big thing. Do I need new channels? Is my GDN starting to work really well? We've tested banner ads on YouTube. This is a great way, by the way, to get into YouTube. Test banner ads on YouTube first. If they show signs of promise, then go spend your 5, 10, 20 grand creating a really good video and running that on YouTube. If you need YouTube stuff, go see Tom Breeze. And then thinking about new betas. Now, these actually probably come out more like quarterly. I think we get a beta deck about 3-4 times a year from Google. So it's maybe not a monthly thing, but you're looking at the results of the new betas that you've run out on your few test accounts and talking as a team about, hey, is this new beta worth doing? Should we roll that out across more clients? That's a sort of monthly level conversation. And then lastly, quarterly. So I'm starting to see all of Google Ads as a quarterly project that we repeat. Your first quarter with a new client is quite different. There are different things that you need to do in that first 90 days. I think there's a new book out, The First 100 Days. It's often talked about with presidencies, right? The first 100 days. That's your critical time. People are generally, this is a huge oversimplification, but they're generally going to quit after 3 months or maybe 3 years or more. So you want to knock their socks off, surprise and delight, and obviously deliver results and get your communications cadence, work out who you're talking to, how they like to be talked to, what type of reporting they want. All of that is in that first quarter. Then you might change to a slightly different structure, but you're doing your quarterly business reviews and you're doing some monthly stuff. You're working out what are the big new initiatives. You're working out what your weekly stuff is, daily stuff, hourly stuff, all fits into that, I'm thinking, 13-week project, and then you repeat that 13-week project quarter after quarter after quarter. So we've talked about pretty much everything on there, right? Do we have the right goals? Are we climbing the right mountain? Are we heading the right way? We had a client recently, you may have heard me tell this story before. They were a shopping client. When they came to us, they had a ROAS of about 3 or 3.5, and they said 7. We need 7. 7 would be nicely profitable for us. And the team are incredible, and they got them a ROAS of 8 within a couple of months. Fantastic. Now you're printing money. And they said, oh, well, that was easy. Well, in that case, we need a ROAS of 13. And that is what led to the formation of the profit curve, because that is a, sorry, client, dumb thing to ask for, because you're saying loads of profitable traffic. Oh no, too easy. I want really, really profitable traffic, without realizing that actually that's going to shrink the amount of traffic that you can go after. Yes, we can get you traffic at a ROAS of 13. And after much back and forth and arguing, we did go and do that. And we got a ROAS of 12 plus. But obviously the amount of traffic shrinks down, so total profit comes down. And we had some interesting conversations, and they're not a client anymore. But that led to the formation or the creation of the profit curve, so that we've got a tool now we can use to have those discussions with clients. And I can map the numbers from the account onto the curve now and show them this is real data. It's fantastic. And obviously thinking about the bigger business. Are there changes to the business? What's happening with the business strategy? Are there other things in the marketing side of things that we need to know about? We're not a full service agency. We stick to our knitting. We are paid traffic, digital acquisition. That's all we do. We don't build websites. We don't do SEO. We do a little bit of help around landing pages, but I wouldn't call what we do proper CRO. There are fantastic businesses around for that. What else are they doing? Are they planning on building a new website? Are they planning on rolling out an app? That's stuff we need to talk about in the quarterly business review.